Natural Living Alchemy. Welcome to my channel. So what do you do with kefir grains when you want to take a break? Well, today I'm going to show you my favorite way to store them for when I need to take a little bit of a break from them. Now, before we get into the information that I want to share with you today, I just want to mention something quickly. If you're one of my regular followers, you may have noticed that I've been a little bit missing in action the last 2 or so months. Well, one, we moved. And two, I was actually having a little bit of a health flare-up, but it is now much more under control. I figured it was more important for me to take the time to address what was going on with health than it was to try to grow a YouTube channel. So hopefully I did not lose too many of you. I am doing much, much better now. And let's get into today's video. Check out the description box below this video, and in there you're going to find a link to the full Write in the Blog article that does go into greater detail than what this video does. So there are 2 main methods of storing or managing kefir grains when you're not using them. The first is freezing, and the second is dehydrating. So we are going to be freezing ours for now because I don't have a proper dehydrator. So when freezing kefir grains, I'm going to suggest that you store them in the amount that you're going to be using them in the future. So what I've done with the old ones that I had when my grains got a little bit out of control is I've just have them portioned in 2 tablespoon portions so that I can just grab these out when I'm ready to go, and you have a serving of kefir. Now, I want to remind you that I am not a doctor. Absolutely none of what is on this channel would be considered medical advice. It is here for education and entertainment purposes only, and it's up to you to talk to your healthcare professionals for following anything that I say. So, before we get into how to freeze kefir grains, let's address a couple questions that you may have. Now, if I don't address a question that you have, feel free to put that in the comment box below this video, and I will definitely get to it as soon as possible. So, does freezing kefir grains make them lose their potency? Well, the freezing process is just going to temporarily slow down the activity as long as you store them properly. And if you defrost them following the appropriate method, your grains will be fine. So if you're wanting to just take maybe a short-term break of like a week or 2, I would suggest putting them in a clean jar in the fridge covered with milk, and that will slow down the process. How long can you freeze kefir grains for? Well, I would freeze them for, 6 months to a year maximum. You may freeze them longer, but you could run the risk of actually just damaging the grains, and that's probably not something that you would want to do. Can you freeze kefir grains in milk? The answer to that is no. So milk ends up separating when it's frozen, and that separation could potentially damage your grains. And can you rinse kefir grains with filtered water? Again, the answer is going to be no. We are going to be rinsing our grains using milk. And this is just regular milk I've grabbed out of the carton. There is no need to bring it up to a temperature and lower it back down because we're only going to be rinsing the grains with it. If you rinse it with water, you run the risk of removing the protective coating of bacteria and yeast. And you also don't want to accidentally introduce a contaminant into your grains. So all you're going to need is a strainer, you're going to need a bowl. Now, it doesn't matter if you use a metal bowl for this. I just still grabbed a plastic one because kefir grains don't generally like metal. What else you're going to need is a piece of parchment paper and just a tray to put them in. I'm planning on using these kefir grains in my air fryer. It's one of those ones that has the French doors on it, and that's just going to keep it at room temperature, and it's just going to make sure that everything stays nice and clean. So what we're going to do is just by starting taking our grains, and we're just going to rinse them off. Now, I wasn't quite sure how long of a break I was going to be taking from my grains, so that's why I just had them stored in the fridge like this in a jar. But it's going to be at least a couple months, so this is going to be a much better way to do it. So this way I don't have to continually change the milk in the kefir grains to keep them happy. So once you've strained them as best as you can, now it's just time to just pour some fresh milk over top and just rinse them off. Okay, so we've rinsed these off. They look nice and clean. Okay, so now all we have left to do is just place them on a thin layer on your parchment paper. Your kefir grains are on the parchment paper. You're going to just dry this at room temperature for 2 to 5 days. So it's just going to depend on the humidity in your house, where you have them sitting, as to how long it's going to take them to dry out. So once they are dried, you're going to then put them in a glass bowl or container, and you're going to take some powdered milk. And you're going to make sure that the grains are thoroughly covered with the milk. And then you're just going to place the coated grains inside of a Ziploc bag. Now, I'm going to suggest you use 2. So just put them in the first one, and then just kind of like this one, how I have the individual servings just inside of another bag. I just don't want them to get freezer burnt, okay? And you can store them in your freezer for up to 1 year. Now, just a couple notes of things that you're going to want to make sure that you do. You're going to want to make sure that you remove as much liquid as possible so you don't damage the grains when you're freezing them. Now, so that's going to depend on the 2 to 5 days where you're going to end up. So just, again, never ever rinse your grains with water. I have seen a lot of contradictory information online when I was especially researching how to do these things properly. And I have just found that the fresh milk is definitely the way to go. So I'm going to be doing another video when I'm starting to drink kefir again, showing you the proper way to defrost these grains. So you might as well just subscribe now so that you don't miss that video. But there you have it. That is going to be how easy it is to freeze your kefir grains. So don't forget to hit the like button if you've liked this video and share it with somebody else who you think might enjoy it. Consider subscribing to the channel so that we can spend more time together and that you don't miss future videos. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, so be sure to connect with me over there as well. I just want to say thanks for stopping by today, and I'll see you next time.